Hello, my name is Emily Hendrickson, and this week's topic was over property law. The case we're looking at this week is the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, Department of Highways versus Atkinson. So, 3 methods for determining the fair market value of property in eminent domain cases, and then I'm going to also include which one was not included in this case. So there's 3 approaches. The first one is comparable sales approach. This approach relies on the cost comparison between other sales of similar properties, meaning that the fair market value is derived from the price data related to the sales of other properties in the same area. The comparable sales approach is typically the preferred method among jurisdictions to determine a property's value and was utilized by KYTC's expert appraiser Dixon Nunnery. The second approach is the income capitalization approach, and this approach estimates a property's ability to produce a potential income. This approach is normally appropriate for income-producing properties such as mines, which is what this case includes. And this approach was utilized by Atkinson's expert appraiser Sam Johnson. The method can prove to be unreliable if used improperly, and it is the court's responsibility to determine credibility and admissibility. And then the third one, which wasn't included in this case, was the cost approach. This approach configures the price a buyer should pay for a piece of property based on if it is equal to the cost of constructing an equivalent building from the ground up. This estimation includes the costs of land, labor, and materials, and is derived from the price it would take to completely rebuild after demolition. And then, like I said before, this method was not utilized or described in this case. So the reasoning behind the appeal concerned the exclusion of the expert testimony provided by the plaintiff, the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, which is KYTC. The testimony supplied by Dixon Nunnery was revealed to have been based on the price tagging method, one that involves price per unit calculations and assigns values to various parts of the property without accounting for the whole. KYTC argued that Atkinson's expert appraisal given by Sam Johnson was, quote, too speculative. However, the court found that Johnson's appraisal did not utilize the simplistic price per unit calculation that had been previously disallowed. And then the steps that the court took to prove the reliability of both of the testimonies. So the first step that they took was determining and defining the different valuation methods, which was in the first slide. So that was 1, the comparable sales, 2, the income capitalization, and then 3 was the cost of purchase. Step 2 was the reliability test. The court ruled that Johnson's appropriate testimony did not conflict with the previous court decision to prohibit price per unit evidence. However, the court ruled against the KYTC appraisal that utilized the price tagging method because they deemed it insufficient to provide an accurate depiction of the property's value. And then the third step was to consult previous rulings. Most modern court rulings rely to some degree on the verdicts and procedures of past cases. Precedents serve as a guide to courts nationwide, promoting consistency and predictability in the vast confusing judicial branch. This case utilized a previous court ruling that permitted the income capitalization approach to determine a property's value in an eminent domain case. And then, for the last question, why did the Kentucky Court of Appeals deny KYTC's motion for a new trial? The appellate court denied the KYTC's motion for a new trial by affirming the trial court's initial ruling. They stated that the KYTC's testimony was excluded because the valuation method used was unreliable and failed to give an accurate portrayal of the property's value. The court included in its conclusion a statement that determining property value is not an exact science. While there are methods of property valuation, there is not necessarily a set standard, and there is always some aspect of speculation. So the final verdict was the Kentucky Supreme Court affirmed the initial ruling of the trial court that awarded the owners of the coal mine $550,000 in just compensation, dismissing any notion of misuse of evidence or abuse of discretion. And then these are the references.